Okay, so we're going to start off by going to gapminder.org, and this is going to give us access both visually and mathematically to a lot of data that comes from CIA World Factbook, from the United Nations, from various censuses, from the Center for Disease Control, and we can take all of that data and graph it using Gapminder. If we click over here to Gapminder World, I already have it loaded over here, you can see the kinds of graphs that we can use. And we can change the axes. So for example here, we've got life expectancy, and it's a linear graph. Now you know about logs and linear. And now I can click on it and open up different criteria. So since the United Nations are meeting this week to discuss climate change, let's look at carbon dioxide emissions, tons per person. Okay, so that data is going to load on there. And let's have a look. Sure, income per person. So how much does our income affect the amount of carbon dioxide that we emit? So this is it in 2011, and we can go along here and we can actually change what year we're looking at. Now, one limitation is the data that they have here. This little thing just popped up. Data before 1900 is highly uncertain. You know, here's the UK. Do we really know what the carbon emissions were per person, what their income was in the year 1880? So, and we're not going to have data for a lot of countries. So I'm not that interested in the time scale. I'm just going to go all the way up to 2010, and there I can see China up here, and who's emitting the most? United States, okay? And you can see there's a slight linear trend. As the income increases, so the amount of carbon dioxide emissions per person tends to increase. And here we've got Qatar, an oil-rich country, all the way at the very extreme there. Why are the circles different sizes? Because this is the population. So you're actually seeing a multi-dimensional graph here, where you've got your carbon dioxide on the y-axis, income on the x-axis, and you've got this third variable, population, by the size of the circles. Now, since you're interested in population, maybe we'll look at income, but now let's go to some demographics, such as child mortality, one way of measuring the number of deaths. So that indicator's now loading. Okay, and we can see a very strong trend then, that as the income per person increases, child mortality decreases. I mentioned the size of the circles. The color is indicative of the continent, so it matches this map up here. So you can play around with the graphs, and for this activity you'll want to play around with them, looking at population variables. But you can also pop over here to the data page. And on the data page, you can see all the different indicators, and you can download them as Excel files. So I have done this for you already for some of the demographics that you will need. Okay, so things like the number of people, the population, overall population in every country in the world. Okay, so you can have a look through those. You can download that data. So, very, very helpful website. Your instructions for today are to, now you know how you can access data. I want you to pick 2 countries and compare their demographic data, and using the Excel file that I've already downloaded for you, calculate the NRI and the doubling rate for those 2 countries. So the countries should be contrasting in some way that's interesting to you. And you should explain why you chose to contrast those two countries. I want you to predict then what's going to happen in the future to the two countries, what's going to happen to the old people, what's going to happen to the population as a whole, what's going to happen to the health or the economic health of the country. Now take a look at a wider range of data and think about how would you go about setting up a study. Perhaps I ask you to compare 20 countries, 10 of one type, 10 of another type. How would you go about that? What kind of data table would you draw? What kind of graph would you draw? Okay, and then if you finish that, you could go to Gapminder and have a go at coming up with your own research question to do with demographics.